American Flight 603, The Lost Journey. It was a routine flight for American Airlines Flight 603. The Boeing 737, a trusted workhorse of the skies, took off from Los Angeles International Airport heading toward New York City. The passengers settled into their seats, the hum of the engines offering a sense of security. The crew, experienced and calm, prepared for the journey, ensuring that all systems were in order. But something unexpected happened. As the plane flew over the plains of the Midwest, it encountered an unusual weather pattern. The clouds darkened in a way no radar had ever predicted, and turbulence began to shake the aircraft violently. The captain, Captain Richard Grayson, tried to navigate through the storm, but something felt off. The winds were stronger than anticipated, and the sky seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. Suddenly, without warning, the plane seemed to disappear from the radar. Air traffic control tried to reach the flight, but there was no response. Flight 603 had vanished from the sky. What followed was a bizarre and chilling chain of events. The airplane reappeared in the sky, but not where it was supposed to be. The surrounding terrain had changed. The landscape below was unfamiliar. The plane was no longer in the United States. It was somewhere else, a place where time and space seemed to bend, and reality itself was altered. On board, the passengers and crew were in a state of shock. They had no idea how they had ended up in this strange dimension, where the world felt slightly out of place. The sky was a deep, eerie shade of purple, and the clouds swirled in patterns that defied the laws of nature. Some passengers believed it was a hallucination, while others thought they had crossed into another world. Captain Grayson, along with his crew, worked tirelessly to try and navigate the unfamiliar skies, but nothing made sense. No one knew how to return home. The plane was running low on fuel, and the passengers were growing restless, fearful that they might never see their loved ones again. As the days passed, the plane flew through this alternate dimension, encountering strange phenomena and increasingly surreal landscapes. The passengers began to bond, sharing stories and trying to hold on to hope. There was a sense that they were trapped in a nightmare, but no one knew how to wake up. But there was one thing they all agreed on: they had to keep flying. Flight 603 became a symbol of survival, a testament to human resilience. The crew and passengers forged an unlikely community, determined to find a way out of the unknown. Would they ever make it back to their reality? Or had they crossed into a world where time no longer existed? Only time would tell if they would find their way home, or if Flight 603 was lost forever in the void between worlds. American Flight 603, The Lost Journey. American Airlines Flight 603 departed Los Angeles on a mild October morning, the sunrise casting a golden glow over the city. It was a direct flight to New York City, and the plane, a sleek Boeing 737, hummed smoothly as it lifted off the runway. Inside, the passengers settled in for a standard 5-hour journey across the country. Captain Richard Grayson, a seasoned pilot with over 2 decades of flying experience, felt confident as he engaged the autopilot. Beside him was his first officer, Julia Evans, who had a natural calm under pressure. The cabin crew moved about, distributing drinks and meals, ensuring everyone was comfortable. As the flight reached cruising altitude, the atmosphere on board was relaxed. Business travelers typed on laptops, families shared stories, and a few passengers dozed off, lulled by the soft hum of the engines. However, something strange was brewing in the skies above the Midwest. The storm that wasn't on radar. The first sign of trouble came about 3 hours into the flight. Without warning, the plane jolted violently. Captain Grayson glanced at the weather radar and saw nothing. No sign of turbulence, no storm, nothing that could explain the shake. Yet the skies outside had darkened, and an unnatural stillness settled over the cabin. Suddenly, clouds unlike any he'd seen began to swirl around the plane. They weren't the fluffy white formations typical at this altitude, but dark, pulsating masses that seemed almost alive. A low, thunderous rumble filled the air, vibrating through the metal of the plane. The passengers glanced nervously at one another as the lights flickered. Captain Grayson's voice crackled over the intercom, trying to keep everyone calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some unexpected turbulence. Please stay seated and fasten your seatbelts. We'll get through this shortly." But deep down, he was worried. He knew this was no ordinary turbulence. He glanced at Julia, who returned his gaze, her face tense with worry. The disappearance. As they attempted to climb above the storm, something even stranger happened. A blinding flash of light enveloped the plane, so bright it seemed to erase everything. For a moment they felt as if they were floating, unanchored to anything in the universe. And then, just as suddenly, they were thrust back into darkness. When the light faded, they found themselves in an entirely different sky. The storm had vanished, replaced by an alien landscape far below. A sea of sand stretched as far as the eye could see, but it wasn't the ordinary earth-toned desert sand. Instead, it shimmered in hues of violet, silver, and deep blue, casting an otherworldly glow. Captain Grayson checked his instruments. They had no altitude reading, no GPS signal, and the compass spun aimlessly. They had crossed into a realm that didn't align with any known reality. Unfamiliar skies and growing panic. The passengers, sensing the unease among the crew, began to panic. Captain Grayson and Julia struggled to keep everyone calm, but fear had gripped the cabin. People clung to each other, whispering, some praying aloud. "Where are we?" whispered a young woman in seat 18 billion, gripping the armrests. "It's impossible," muttered an elderly man near the window. "This can't be real." Outside, the sky was a surreal shade of violet, streaked with luminous clouds that twisted in unnatural patterns. A calm, unsettling silence filled the air, broken only by the murmur of frightened voices. The flight attendants tried to maintain order, but their own fear was palpable. Strange encounters in an alien world. Hours passed. The fuel gauge showed they were dangerously low, yet they hadn't descended. No matter what maneuvers the pilots tried, it was as if the plane was trapped in a loop, bound to this surreal landscape. Then, strange things began to happen. One by one, passengers reported glimpsing shadowy figures outside their windows, flickering in and out of sight. Some claimed to hear faint whispers. Others swore they saw ghostly figures flying alongside the plane. In the cabin, the clocks had stopped, and even the passengers' watches froze. Time had become an abstraction, losing all meaning. It was unclear whether they had been in the strange world for hours or days. At one point, they passed over what looked like a colossal, ancient structure, a towering, crumbling building resembling a temple with symbols that glowed faintly, casting a haunting light into the night. The structure seemed familiar yet alien, evoking a sense of ancient power that chilled everyone who saw it. Captain Grayson tried to keep his wits about him, making note of every unusual sight, hoping to retrace their steps if they ever found a way back. Survival and bonding. As the days or what felt like days passed, the passengers began to form bonds. They shared stories, memories, and photos, clinging to any reminder of the world they'd left behind. The cabin crew organized everyone into small groups, each responsible for different tasks, conserving the limited food supply, comforting those who struggled to cope, and maintaining a semblance of order. There was Max, a quiet man in his 50s, who took on the role of counselor, speaking softly to anyone in distress. Laura, a young artist, sketched scenes of their strange surroundings, trying to document their journey. She captured the eerie landscapes, the shimmering sands, and the ghostly figures that occasionally appeared outside the windows. They became a small community, united by their shared ordeal and driven by a common hope to survive and to return home. The final attempt to escape. One day, after what felt like an eternity, the plane began to shake again. Another storm had appeared on the horizon, this time with flashes of electric blue lightning. Captain Grayson made the decision this storm might be their only chance. It was a risk, but he had to try. With the engines roaring, he directed the plane into the heart of the storm. The passengers braced themselves, holding tightly to their seats, some closing their eyes in prayer. The plane shook violently as they plunged into the storm's core, the blinding light once again surrounding them. When the light faded, they were back. The familiar landmarks of New York's skyline appeared on the horizon. Captain Grayson's instruments suddenly sparked to life, and the familiar chatter of air traffic control came through the radio. they had returned. But something was different. The passengers looked at their watches. No time had passed since they first entered the storm. It was as if the entire journey had been erased from history. As they landed, relief mixed with an eerie sense of unreality. Each passenger had memories of their time in the alternate dimension, memories that felt dreamlike and surreal, yet hauntingly real. They disembarked, blinking in the sunlight, each one changed by the experience. For some, it became a story of survival. For others, a reminder of how fragile reality could be. And for Captain Grayson and his crew, it was a mystery they could never fully explain, a journey into the unknown that would remain with them forever.